where Royal Kingdom is doing something like 1 million a day, whereas Royal Match is still doing 4.5 million a day. So yeah, altogether it's something like, again, 5 million a day. We'll see. But it's very, very interesting if they will be able to keep the momentum. But again, they're the masters of the match 3 for now, so undisputed champions here. Moving on, Whiteout Survival. This is the biggest challenger for the Rivergame Forex guys.
It's 4 a.m. and we're rolling the dice. Matei drops knowledge made of golden eyes. Felix with ads making those coins rise. Jakub designs worlds chasing the sky. We're the 2.5 gamers, the midnight crew, talking UA adverts and game design too. Matei, Felix, Jakub bringing the insight. We're rocking those vibes till the early daylight. Matei, UA, master eyes on the prize, tracking data through the cyberspace skies. Felix stacks dollars like a wizard in disguise. Jakub's crafted realms lift us to the highs. 2.5 gamers talking smack. Slow hockey stick, got your back. Ads are beautiful, they light the way. Click it fast, don't delay.
Oh, hello. Here I am. I have something very important to say. This episode is brought to you by Vibe.co. Have you ever thought about TV ads and how they are just for massive brands with multi-million budgets? Yeah, not anymore. With Vibe.co, you can launch CTV ads on Hulu, Roku, Tubi, you name it, in minutes. It's that simple. Totally self-serve. And yes, it actually drives real business results. So over 5,000 brands are already using it. So maybe it's your turn. Check out vibe.co. That's vibe.co, vibe.co, and enjoy. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the episode.
Hello, and welcome to 2.5 Gamers, another one of the solo episodes that I'm doing here. Today, it's gonna be a little bit more analytical than usual, but I think nonetheless it's pretty interesting what's happening in the market. So what I'm gonna do today is gonna be an overview of last 6 months revenue of the top games on the mobile market, I think the Western one. And yeah, I'm going to put some stuff into context, maybe recap some stuff we did on the podcast already and stuff that we'll actually do, I think, to give you a little bit of latest trends, news, and stuff that's happening overall with the biggest games on the market that we have there. Okay, so let's go, as there's a lot of stuff to cover. So in the list, what we see here, this is last 6 months for iOS App Store, the ones that we see, of course. So there's no stores, I mean the special Android stores in China or WeChat or all these other things. You just see the iOS and Google Play Store IP revenue plus the iOS revenue from the Chinese iOS store, if I understand correctly. So there we go. So we'll go over the list one by one, and first let me just read out who's there. So yeah, as expected, the biggest grossing game for last 6 months. And by the way, this is moved from January 26 to July 26, so it's not like really the first half of the year. It's like 1 month move further, but I wanted it to be like as latest as possible because there are games that just recently had some upsides, and I think you need to know about those. So yeah, let's start. Last War Survival, yeah, pretty much undisputed champion of the Forex. We talk about this game so much, and yeah, they're just killing it. Second place, that was 823 million. Royal Match, second place, 732 million. Whiteout Survival, third spot, 719. Monopoly Go, 715. Fifth spot, Honor of Kings, 614. Candy Crush 574, Coin Master 470, Pokemon TCG Pocket 433, Roblox 345, and then PUBG, the Chinese version 333. I can keep on reading the list until 25th game here, but I would rather go them one by one because there are some like the PUBG one you saw there because that's just the Chinese PUBG. We need to add the normal PUBG. Afterwards, it kind of shakes up the list a little bit because this is per app, but we all know that like these these games are pretty much part of the same portfolio or the same game. So we'll need to slice it up a little bit. So let's go one by one. Okay, so again, Last War Survival, these guys are literally killing it. They have these pretty big update spikes going all the way to like 8 million a day, but still the overall kind of daily revenue is something like 5 million a day on, as I said, the stores that we see. This is not the Chinese revenue that we not see counted in, which could be, again, much more. Regarding download side, they're very, very stable, still doing something like 2K downloads a day. Even if we would go on the bullshit filter as usual, like where this revenue is coming from, you can still see that the US is the majority with something like 35%, and then we have the Asian countries tagging along with South Korea 17 and Japan 15. This game is just a juggernaut, basically. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, definitely you need to account that these guys, the Rivergame Forex team from China, is also running the Top Heroes, the Dark War. Always forgot the for game one last Z, yeah, which is the AI waifus that they're doing. So there's multiple games that they added that are growing very aggressively on the portfolio. So they actually, if we could take the whole Forex kind of angle that they're doing, it's even much more. Moving on, yeah, so Royal Match second spot, it's very, very stable. I guess there's some spillovers from the celebrity campaign that we're running for Royal Kingdom. If we add these two together, you see that it's kind of started to showing in the chart finally, where Royal Kingdom is doing something like 1 million a day, whereas Royal Match is still doing 4.5 million a day. So yeah, altogether it's something like, again, 5 million a day. We'll see. But it's very, very interesting if they will be able to keep the momentum. But they're the masters of the match 3 for now. So undisputed champions here. Moving on, Whiteout Survival. This is the biggest challenger for the Rivergame Forex guys. You could see that they're still slowly growing it up, something like 4 million a day. Very, very stable kind of chart going up. The slow Chinese dragon, I used to say. But the important part to put this into context is that we need to add King Shot into it, because there's this other game that they're running, which is scaling like crazy and is already doing like something like 2 million a day. So altogether, both these games are actually making like 6 million. So if we would just do the last 6 months filter, which is the one that we have here with all the games, where the top one, Last War, has 823. If we would apply it here, it would be actually more. It's like 852 if we add on King Shot. But of course, we didn't add on all the other Rivergame games such as Top Heroes, Dark War, Last Z, and so on and so forth. But just saying into context, yeah, these portfolios are still growing, and the important part that they're growing from also from new games that these studios launched recently, that this year or last year. It's not just as like one behemoth game and they can do anything else. It's very, very healthy growth, I would say. Moving on, Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go actually downscaled a little bit from its peak in March 2024 from 200 million. Now it's still doing very stable revenue of 130 million. You could see the advertising and like their new campaigns like pretty much running on in TV. I think they're doing some 70 show sitcom parody something currently. Downloads wise, of course, they went down because we all know like this is very, very expensive to run something like 13, 14 million downloads a month in social casino or casual casino genre. Yeah, active users are still again very, very stable, sitting at something like 70 million a day. So yeah, it's doing super great, I would say. The other important dynamic that's happening here that not really everybody is talking about is that they have their Mr. Monopoly's Tycoon Club, which is pretty much their web shop, and they're now, after actually the Epic ruling, they're doing it even more aggressively. So this is like the standard, I would say, how to do it in the industry. So they're doing it very, very, very good, which means we maybe don't see the full picture here, because it could be what added 20% coming from the web, 30%, we don't know. So depends, but it's definitely at least 15 to 20%. That's my guess. But again, it's just a guess. I'm not no expert here on web store revenues, and we'll definitely need to do some more digging this year, because this is going to be more and bigger problem basically for us estimating these games. Whereas the revenue will be hidden. But I guess analytical tools like Sensor Tower will also adjust, so we'll get some metrics soon, I guess. Moving on, Coin Master. This is very, very important dynamic that happened here is that you would expect that Monopoly Go would eat away their pie and their revenue and whatnot, and like Monopoly Go would go up and these guys would go down. No, that's not the case. Coinmaster is pretty much doing like if we go daily revenue, like a straight line of like something like 2.5 million a day, basically, for like since I don't know last 5 years. So yeah, these guys are literally unfazed by Monopoly Go. Downloads were a little bit down on something like 50, 40K a day, but still the revenue is very, very stable. If we go to active user base, yeah, a little bit declining trend, but still same goes for Monopoly Go. Like the decline is offsetted by better monetization optimization. So this game is still doing monstrous revenue. The important part and the dynamic that I want to put into context, that's why we're having the latest month here, is that these guys said, so Monopoly Go, you took some stuff from us. So we took some stuff from you. So there's this new game in soft launch called Coin Master Board Adventure, which is basically Coin Master version of Monopoly Go. Yeah, I don't really see that much difference from the surface. I guess we cover that game soon once we see some actual dynamics of it. I mean, like scaling phase in the market. But from the surface look of it, it seems like it's literally just a Coin Master version of Monopoly Go or the other one around. Because again, the board seems a little bit shorter just from the looks of it, but all the other stuff that they have here, like such as the album, the PvP dynamic of you destroying other people's houses. They kept their own kind of village setup that they have here. It's not the city, it's these like monuments or whatever. That's like what Coinmaster is doing. Even like this screen, those are pretty much the same. Yeah, the card album is there. So yeah, we'll see. Like it's gonna be very interesting, like how this game is gonna carve out its market share. Yeah, can't wait once we cover it. Moving on, Honor of Kings. Yeah, so this is pretty much the biggest mobile game there is ever. It was the first game that ever grossed over 10 billion on mobile in revenue. Currently, you see that again, it's very, very stable and been stable for like last, I don't know, like 5 years basically, doing something like 4.5 million a month. This is just the Chinese iOS store. Like if I just click here, you can see that yeah, this is 99.6% revenue coming from China. We don't see the Android stores and all the other versions where this game is still making a lot of money. It went through its biggest update and rebranding yet, where it was rebranded Honor of Kings Plus this month, introducing some new characters and like stuff whatnot. Like if you would need to look at the game, it's basically the League of Legends. Yeah, you see how it looks. Tencent owns Riot Games, so everything's in order here. No questions asked. The other important part regarding this game is that, as I see the sources online, this game already made 18 billion. So that just gives you the scale of the estimation that we're missing here. If they already passed 18 billion and we just see 10.5 billion here in Sensor Tower. So it's making a lot of revenue somewhere in Chinese Android stores and somewhere else where we just don't see it, or we just probably, or I don't know where it is. But yeah, it's the biggest game on the market, and still, because of the rebrand, as you see here, they don't sleep on their laurels and they just continue kind of pumping up the revenue. Yeah, continuing Candy Crush, even though they get shadowed a little bit in the chart here by Royal Match, because again, you see the difference here. They're still doing very good. Candy Crush nearly had its best month ever in April this year. The best month was April in 2 years before, but again, this could be just, sadness multiplier here, because that's what difference of, I don't know, 105 against 112 million. Web store, again, we don't see that revenue, but the trend is something that we see, which means this game is kicking all-time high revenue, so doing perfectly great. you could see and spot and remember that they started really doing the Royal Match creatives with like saving the Yeti, to borrow from Save the King and stuff like that. They're taking notes definitely from a Royal Match and trying to adjust to the marketing trend. Moving on, Pokemon TCG Pocket. I'm still playing this game every single day, which means I'm basically going there opening the 2 packs because yeah, this is a gacha simulator, but even the combat and like the fighting now that we have ranked PvP here works very well. I'm still able to get the top deck easily without paying anything. So they're still, I would say, very, very generous. They're on their way to do 1 billion in first 12 months, as we had the bet with Phil. Yeah, it was launched somewhere end of October, so my guess is they'll get there because they're doing what, like stable. Yeah, even though they're on decline here, 79 million, but June was 52 million. Keep in mind that it's very cyclical because of all of these gacha spikes where the new set drops in, and the new set drops in actually this month on 30th, which is See Something Adventure. I don't. The last one was the EV set where you had like all the EV evolutions. He's doing perfectly great, I think. Moving on, Roblox, which was on spot number 9. In the Roblox, I think there's some artifact here in Sensor Tower, or I don't know what happened here, but based on the download curve, it's still like consistently scaling up, now doing more than 1 million downloads a day. Keep in mind, this is not a game, this is a platform which literally companies focused only on making Roblox games are currently occupying, and they're doing all the brands collaboration and trying to compete with Fortnite with the whole metaverse kind of a play. Yep, this just works pretty well, I guess, for them. Also, let's see regarding their active users, they're really, really skyrocketing lately into something like 175 or nearly 200 million daily active users. I really don't know what happened here, why it's so high. I guess we need to check that out. But again, there's been many collaborations, many things similar to how Fortnite got in with Lego. These guys are also, again, not sleeping at the wheel. So they're also pushing, as you can see, very, very high. Moving on, then we have PUBG. And as I said, this is just the Chinese PUBG, which is very stable. Then we have the Western version of PUBG, which is again stable. All in all, both two together do something like between 120, 80 million a day based on like these, I guess, spikes, based on the updates, which would put the game, if we would again put it on our chart here, 685 million last 6 months, which would be something behind Monopoly Go on the 5th spot, actually, even more than Honor of Kings on the Western revenue, not the overall revenue. So there we go. Moving on to another spot, Pokemon Go. Doing pretty stable. I guess Scopely acquisition hasn't really materialized into something impactful yet, or I don't know, I haven't seen anything. We'll definitely return to this game once we see some either trend going up or down, I don't know. In my opinion, this game will have a pretty rough kind of path ahead of it if it's want to kind of cover its spot, because we have the Pokemon TCG game doing like very, very good. We have another big game called Pokemon Champions, actually. Is arriving in 2026. I actually thought this was just announced, like 5 days ago on the trailer. Yeah, I thought it would be arriving in 2025, but it's actually, I guess, I don't know if moved because they didn't haven't announced it, but it's arriving 2026. If I understand correctly, this is a fighting game in the style of Pokemon Stadium, for those old enough that remember that on PlayStation, where you would have literally these stadium battles. So imagine some of the episodes literally where just Ash goes and like he like just literally just battles the Pokemon. So this is basically it. So it's connected to Pokemon Home, which is very intriguing because Pokemon Home is the central app where you can store your Pokemons from the other app. I've seen even some movements where people are kind of being afraid of Scopely super monetizing Pokemon Go, so they would move their Pokemon here into Pokemon Home and then just migrate here into Pokemon Champions, or I don't know. I will see. It's gonna be super, super interesting dynamic because next year, when the dust settles at the start and this comes out, yeah, I'm really looking forward like how Scopely will battle their justification for the acquisition, basically, because there's much more different environment now that we have other major Pokemon games, and I mean major ones doing billions, competing with each other, because this is definitely not something like Pokemon Unite, the MOBA, which isn't like even in the chart. But this looks great. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, we don't have a specific date, but yeah, iOS, Android, and Nintendo Switch 2026. So yeah, can't wait. Garena Free Fire, yeah, this game just announced, or let's say celebrated its 8th anniversary. This is doing amazingly well still, doing something like 50 million a month. Even though you could say that it's based on its daily user count, which is like 242 million. Sorry, that was monthly. Daily is something like 18 million basically. It's because this game is pretty much monetizing very intensively in low-paying countries. You see the biggest sources: India, then Brazil, Indonesia, Vietnam, Mexico. So yeah, this is not really a like Western tier 1 game. That's why you have like this giant daily user count, even though it's just 50 million. But it's still doing amazingly well. And again, I would say pretty unstoppable here. It's a staple there in Asia and in the East. Gossip Harbor. Yeah. So this thing is scaling like crazy. It's actually the winner of this whole chart regarding its growth. You could see Gossip Harbor was plus 76% in last 6 months. Yep, this thing is just being scaled like there's no tomorrow. Microfun is really choking the whole kind of merch category, because they also have Seaside Escape. They have like few more other merch games. There's the new Flamby merch game going. They're gonna be challenged by Tasty Travels, which is coming from Century Games. We covered that game recently on the podcast. Yep, there's gonna be very, very interesting, because the whole merch category pretty much increased its whole revenue. It's not that like these games are competing with each other. They actually increased the revenue of the whole category. And again, this is still scaling like crazy to something like 2 million a day nearly. And you can see the download spike here in July. Again, that's why I wanted to cover July, because Gossip Harbor, maybe they felt threatened, or I don't know, by Century Games. They just said like put the pedal to the metal, and it's like 250k downloads a day now. And if we would put, let's put Seaside Escape here, which is their other game, and you can see that the downloads there, they pretty much downscaled, because I guess the decision there was like, throw everything into Gossip Harbor. Like, yeah, we just go like all in. So let's see how this one works out. Then we have Township, which I think like the steady wins the race here, because Township is the most stable game I think that I ever saw, which is constantly growing. And this is a monster of a game, because the amount of content that they added into it, I don't even know what the game is now, because it's not even like the Farmville style simulation. It's also match 3 events. I don't know what they added into it. It's hitting literally record revenue in just this year, March, something like 50 million a month. And if you look at the portfolio, you could see this yellow blob, like starting from somewhere here, pretty much taking over. Where if you look at Gardenscapes actually downscaled a little bit. So yeah, you would expect that Gardenscapes, Hostscapes are taking the priority, but that's not the case, because again, Gardenscapes went in a little bit of decline into 38 million a month for last month. So yeah. So as for the Plague's portfolio, Township is the king now. So if we recap the 130 million for the June, for whole Plague's portfolio, it's Township 38, Gardenscape 36, Homescape 25, Vision 24, and Manor Matters 2 million something. So Plague's is basically still having these 4 staple games, with just Township being the best, most stable of them, I would say. Then we move on to Honkai Star Rail. MiHoYo is still in the top chart here. The important part regarding MiHoYo, that's still hitting very, very diminishing returns, unfortunately. So again, because you see these spikes, that means this is just a gacha game driven by gacha banner of characters. doing pretty well recently, but if you look at the overall picture, it's again its lowest month actually in July, which is 15 million a month. But again, this depends on like when in the month the gacha goes, because like the month before, like here April is 60 million, so it's again very spiky. You can really say. Maybe if we put it by quarter, again you can see a little bit more stable curve here, but it's in decline. Like I want kind of put the lipstick on the pig here. The problem is this, again, spiky revenue if we put it on quarters. So MiHoYo hit its all-time peak in Q2 2023, and unfortunately it's been just going down from something like 500 million a quarter to 250 million a quarter. Again, these games are on PC, I think even other stores, so we don't really see the full revenue, but again, mobile trend is usually pretty kind of, obvious what's happening here. I hope the guys really make a new game, and I mean really new game, not just new core gameplay on their tech-on progression, which they're reusing these last 3 games, because you see how like Zenless Zone Zero actually went over Honkai recently, but again, it really depends on like which game is just running its newest gacha. You can really compare between the two. But yeah, let's see. Genshin still being the biggest game, it seems. So that just confirms the trend that each consecutive game they did, it just wasn't able to surpass the other. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's still like not bankrupting tomorrow or something, but they really need to do something different. Otherwise, they just can run it down eventually. Call of Duty Mobile, very stable revenue. That was what? 11th spot on the chart with 222 million for last 6 months. Where we go? Sorry, here we are. Yeah, doing something like 33 million a month. Very, very stable. Then we have Brawl Stars, which actually have fallen from grace a little bit. So we'll now go to the Supercell segment. So Brawl Stars itself is in decline. It went into that peak during May 2024 last year with like 90 million a month, which was monstrous for a game that's been like 6 years old. And then it's just declining down, unfortunately. Downloads wise, if you look at it, pretty much the same kind of a thing, I would say. But the revenue part, again, it's important that I don't know where this goes. Still, if you look at the baseline is just much higher than it was before. It's something like 600 a day with these spikes, whereas before it was like 300, so double the baseline as it was before the whole update ran in August 2023, or Christmas 2023. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think so. This will kind of return back to this height because of the economy rebalance. Like, remember, one of the things they did there was that they stopped giving players the ability to purchase the battle pass for hard currency. So now you need to pay, which again shows itself. So that's there. Yeah, we'll see. Again, I'm a little bit skeptical about Supercell current pipeline and what they're doing, like with all the games such as Rise, Moko, and Squad Busters. I guess their whole setup still seems to me a little bit of like 5 years ago. Whereas, like, if you look at all the giants there, which are playing the heavy UA game, yeah, it's different. And Supercell still kind of stubbornly goes with their like known and tried and tested UA, which is basically their army of influencers on YouTube and everywhere, which is great. It works. The question is how it will work further. But yeah, let's see. Like, they're not having a bad time, really. It's just that they, again, similar to MiHoYo, they need to figure out what to do next in order to break this chain of, like, I would say a little bit of misfortune lately. Then we have Clash of Clans. This is the other story. I would say Clash of Clans being super stable. Just remember when I covered, they have some collaborations and stuff, doing just still constantly something like 35, 40 million revenue a month. Again, web stores are in play here. Supercell has their own web store, had that before. So again, we don't see everything, but this is in very, very stable spot. And then Clash Royale is actually the second best growing game in last 6 months from the whole list. So what's happening here? Clash Royale, even though you see has again fallen out of grace from its launch in 2016, then there were some rebalances, stuff like that, yada yada yada. And then we see that there's this like sudden spike here. So what's happening here? So what's actually happened is that they added, I guess it's not just this thing, but one thing that they added was there's merge tactics now in Clash Royale, which basically means they added a Clash Mini. Clash Mini being the auto chess version of the game that they killed, and they, I guess, refurbished it or remodeled it and put it into the actual game now. This is just simplified Clash Mini. I mean, not that simplified, it's just like reworked. So if you look at this, you can see that it's pretty much the same gameplay. The board isn't square grid, it's just normal hex grid because hexagons are the bestagons. But yeah, it's against 4 players now, where they have like these different rounds. It's a little bit a mix-up tournament system. You have your units that you merge on the board. You can buy new units with gold between the rounds. Where's the merge? As you can see here. Then if you lose, your king gets the damage to his head, as usual, like reminders of Jig. I don't know if I can get like a merge happening in this video. Probably not. Yeah, that happened there because you see the stars, so they merge. On the left side, you see all of these kind of types, which are pretty much the bonuses that incentivize you to collect specific units to apply these bonuses to those units or the whole team or however it's kind of done there. So yeah, it's pretty much auto chess. So they added auto chess. It seems it worked very, very well for them. And I can't wait until we get the closer look on this, how Clash Royale has been having a resurrection basically lately, because it seems to me the baseline revenue was like it's 1 million, nearly 2 million a day. So last time this happened was in this is just like a spike year, in 2021, 4 years ago. So we'll see what happens there. Love and Deep Space, that was spot 21, doing very, very stable revenue. Again, gacha base still growing. We covered the game on the podcast if you want to see. This is the best interactive story genre actually designed targeted for women. Yep, this game is just great. Again, mostly Asian revenue, which means that 55% is coming from China. There's still considerable 15% coming from US, but then again, we have Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's an Asian version of interactive stories. Then we have eFootball. I haven't seen this game anywhere. I guess we skipped that. Not that strong in the sports category. This has been growing very interestingly for the last 8 years. And lately, June revenue is something like 32 million. Maybe we should look at the game more closer. It's from Konami, which is of course, the very, very old Japanese publisher. Doesn't look any special. I guess there needs to be definitely something happening good. Maybe let me double check where the revenue is coming from. Yeah, of course, Japan. Japan 45%, China 14%, and Thailand, Malaysia. US is just 4%, but again, US is not strong in football. US have their own version of American football. I mean, like soccer. And then South Korea. Yeah, this does seem that like the main soccer or football countries in the Europe are interested in this. This is just the Asian population spending here. Maybe we should look at it, but again, heavily 45% Japanese revenue. Then we have Toon Blast. Yeah, peak has been on a very good ride recently with like the scaling of Match Factory. Toon Blast, their biggest game, also haven't been left behind. You see how it pretty much scaled up back to something, or I think it's like all-time high. Yes, it's at its all-time high of 30 million a month, which is great because again, Toon Blast, an 8-year-old game. If you look at downloads, yeah, very, very stable. So they're doing something very, very well. Again, they're big competition locally with Dream Games. And then last one on the list, the 25th game is NCSoft Lineage. 3, if I read that right, but I guess it will be just in Korean or no. Lineage. Yeah, sorry, Lineage. Yeah, Lineage, local brand in South Korea. I grew up playing Lineage 2. It's just as it is. And as you see here, it's 86% revenue from South Korea. Then we have Taiwan, Japan, and like no US countries or no Western countries. Yeah, this is the home brand. This is pretty much like South Korean version of World of Warcraft. I would say a little bit more not a little bit, a lot more brutal with all these mechanics, but it's just a staple there. This whole IP just won't go away ever because there are multiple Lineage games in top charts in South Korea, like Lineage 2, Lineage 1, Lineage 3. Yeah, people are just crazy about this game. But again, June's revenue is 36 million, so doing pretty well. That was the list. Thank you very much for listening. I guess we'll look a little bit more on some of these games, especially when we have some more intel from China, as we'll be going as basically we are in China by the time you're hearing this. So feel free to hit us up there because we definitely want to estimate some more numbers here. One kicker game that I haven't covered here, which I think should be definitely in this list, but it's not there. It's Dungeon and Fighter, which was released in China and did like I think like the last number I heard was like something like 700 million or 500 million a month there, which is again very old Asian IP. A web game basically. It finally kicked itself to do a mobile release, and it did amazingly well. I hope they finally release it to the West so we can analyze it. But yeah, that game would be something probably top 10, I would guess, in the last 6 months. Again, I don't know. Need to ask friends in China how that is doing there then well. But yeah, don't forget about that game because we will heard. I think this is not the last time we heard about this game. Anyway, have a nice day. See you around. Join us in the Slack channel. If you have any other questions or any requests, or you want a different format or suggest a setup that we should run regarding these, let us know. We're looking for that. See you next time. Ciao.